Okay, so assessment 2 to 4, I'm going to explain what's the important key issue that you should be mindful when you're preparing the presentation of the research paper and written initial proposal outline and also written research proposal. The important thing is to explain why. Throughout these, I encourage you to clarify why, the motivation of the study, and then how the methods and the what basically exact research found, or what you want to find in the end. So um, this is best explained in this concept called a golden circle. You can imagine a circle, three concentric circles like this, and then at the center there's a why. It's your purpose, your motivation, and then the outer surface contains intermediately there's a how, uh, explaining that what is your method, the process, specific actions to realize why, and then finally what your result, what do you do, result of the why, proof. Okay, and many people actually, if you're not told about this, um, tend to present your research project proposal or present a paper in the way that going this way, in a sense, um, to focus on what exactly this research found, or what kind of method they use to find this, or and then eventually to only briefly touch upon why they did this study and so on. But this is exactly the opposite of how the listener, including me as a lecturer or tutor or audience, can understand what the paper is about. You need to go from why and then explain how and then to finally what. Unless you get through this concept of why, people basically don't understand what your presentation is about or what you are trying to achieve through this essay. So that's the main point. Okay, and this actually is also built in our brain, which is going to be part of what the lecture is about. Unity is about brain base of the consciousness. You might have heard in other units or any kind of popular writing that our brain is composed of central or a very old part of the brain that is called the limbic brain, and then to grow into outer part neocortex. There are some updates of this view, but central message is actually still true in many cases. What it means is that our core brain part is related to the regulation of the emotion and motivation and so on. And then neocortex, the outer side, is responsible for your logical thinking or understanding of the language and also visual processing and so on. But unless you get this core part of this limbic brain initially knocked out or sort of convinced, it's very hard to organize all these thoughts or your energy into understanding how exactly they did it or what kind of thing they did find in the end. So to really deliver what you want to deliver to other people, important thing is to first deliver why we are doing this, or why this researcher decided to study this question. Okay, and if you can get through that, and you can spend maybe 1 minute or two to explain why they did it, then you're following structure of how they did it and what they found makes it easier to flow. And also in the end, you can also re-emphasize why this study is interesting or important or significant in the history of the consciousness research at the end. And that's much more effective way to present your paper presentation, as well as uh, project presentation and also peer review. Okay, so a bit more detail. Uh, Week 2, 4, 8 is primarily for the presenting of the research paper from each of you. And then the procedure is as follows. So select one of the papers available on the Moodle and then present this to the class. Okay, and then each tutorial, because we have multiple choice questions and discussion, we can probably fit 5 to 7 presentations per tutorial. And then all these things are Moodle, available in Moodle, and roughly half of them are the study done on the healthy individuals, and then the rest of them are clinically oriented or neurophysiology or neuroimaging, which tend to be more complicated and also difficult to understand. So if you're interested in taking relatively simple kind of papers, maybe this clinically oriented papers are relatively easy to understand. And the next is going to be the study of the healthy individuals. And the neurophysiology imaging, if you know what they are measuring and so on, it may be okay, but can be difficult. And week 2 lecture, I'll try to upload relatively soon. We'll go through the basis of the neurophysiology and the neuroimaging. So if you're interested in presenting papers on this neurophysiology and neuroimaging, it may be useful to watch that video as well. Okay. So each tutorial has different focus in terms of the topics or subtopics, such as dreaming and so on. And this will we make it like this way, so that it will facilitate the discussions, questions, and understanding of the subtopics. Because we can't really cover everything through the tutorial. We subselect them. Okay, and you are. Roughly speaking, each of the topic has at least 4 to 6 papers. And then your presented papers are highly related to other people's paper. Then you can actually make comments to other people's paper as well. Okay. And if you find, through the research or, after looking at the list of the papers, and then you didn't find that, oh, I don't know whether I want to do this paper or present this paper, but I actually know this one is more interesting, then please ask your assigned tutor if it's okay to present that paper. It's if it's within the category, subtopics of each tutorial, then we are likely to say, yes, that's fine. If you can find it by yourself, that's even better. Okay. All right. So then, in terms of format, we ask you to pre-record your presentation, and also you make some slides that goes with it. Okay. So the way I'm doing the lecture is pretty much the way that you are going to do. And then both of them, recording and also slides, should be uploaded. And the exact way to do it is going to be explained in Moodle and general discussion forum later. So one thing to note that the week 2 tutorial will happen relatively soon. And that's going to be in the week of August 2. And throughout all the assignments, we are going to ask you to upload the materials like this presentation and also pre-recorded presentation and slides or written assignment by Monday 10 a.m. That's a deadline. Okay, and if you need some kind of extension, please consult with TA beforehand, and then they may be able to give some extension. But also you may need to go through the more formal kind of way to do that. Okay, and then the advantage of you taking week 2 is that most likely, because you don't have much time to prepare, we will give the marking relatively leniently. So that's one advantage. And another advantage is that if you find your favorite paper to present, and then we basically prioritize you to choose that paper for if you are presenting in week 2. So for example, if somebody says that I want to present this easy paper on week 4, and then you later wants to propose to say that I actually want to present that paper, but I'm going to do that in week 2, then we are going to give you that paper and then let you present in week 2. So that's the advantage. Okay. And for all of these people who don't want to present on week 2, then it's totally fine as well. but you are also asked to upload the video and the slides by 2 weeks later, regardless of whether you are going to present it on week 4 or 6 or 8. So the difference is only 2 weeks, okay? And there is potential marking kind of advantage and also, choice of the paper advantage on week 2. So I recommend you to upload and then present, on week 2. And if there are too many, uploaded presentations and slides on the week 2, then we basically, give the same kind of, advantage to all of these, people. But actual presentation itself could be week 4 or 6 or 8. Because the presentation is going to be all done through the pre-recorded presentation, it should be not a big disadvantage for you to do that. Okay. All right. So then we will give further instructions if there is any questions on the Moodle. And then one thing is that the presentation of the video should be maximally 7 minutes. And then I know that you can fast forward to contain lots of information within the 7 minutes, recording, but don't do that. Okay. Your recording and the speech speed should be something that is easy to understand at the normal speed. And then in terms of the recording software, I myself like to use Zoom because it's easy and I'm really used to it. But many students last year have used a PowerPoint or other kind of software to record the presentation, and there's no advantage or disadvantage about that. But one thing I just want to caution is that if you do record, then just watch it before you upload it, okay? Because sometimes your sound is too faint to hear, or even not recorded at all, and that's going to be disaster. And it's your responsibility to make sure that, okay? So make sure the sound quality is relatively reasonable, and then when you are confident, upload it. And if you have any technical difficulty, then please contact your tutor. Now, after the presentation, within this tutorial, you have to be there to take questions from your fellow students and tutor and me about the paper that you present. And this constitutes the 2.5 points of your presentation. Okay, so if you are not there, you lose 2.5%. And then this is a breakdown of the points. 5% is basically to explain why that particular study was done, and explain questions and so implications or significance and so on. And the how and what constitutes another 5%. It's a detail of the experiment and what finding. And then another 5% is basically your presentation skills. Like nice presentation in terms of figures and slides, and also the font size and things like that. That's important, and also the quality of answers to questions. That would be also perfect. Count 2.5%. And if you're not there, then you lose it. Okay. And then as an exemplar presentation, there is a video in the Moodle. It's about the paper, Landman's paper, and then recorded by Kianshen. And you can, one of the tutors, this class, and you can see what kind of information needs to be there. All right. And then, a little bit more information about the recommended structure of a presentation. As I said, explain why, that's the first thing. And then to understand why of this paper, what you need to do is first to try to understand the introduction part of the paper, okay? Introduction of the paper usually explain the context of the paper. And then once you fully understand that, usually it's easy to explain why this a paper is chosen for our our class, and also why this paper was published in the first place. If it's something that's not worth explaining, why we need to do this experiment, usually you can't really publish it. So usually, if you totally understand the introduction, then that's that kind of information that you want to deliver to others. And then also to understand this and so rephrase this, sometimes it's better for you to get more broader understanding or broader kind of context of the paper. And the good thing is to use Wikipedia. To if you don't understand the terms, for example, let's say if you encounter the term blind side or something like that, go to the Wikipedia and then just read the first few sentences, and then do the same thing for all these terms that you don't understand in the introduction. Okay. And then also similar to Wikipedia, but after Wikipedia most likely, if the paper cites review papers within the introduction, that also helps you to understand a why question. Why this particular study is done, because if you go to the review paper, it lists a lot of papers saying oh, this is A or this is A not A, and then there are many controversial kind of things. And then now finally this particular experiment or paper propose experiment B to decide why there is some kind of contradiction between the previous studies and so on. So it's usually good to go to the review papers. Okay. And then to do that, you can download the papers that's cited in introduction and discussion. And then important thing is to not to read all of them, which I'm going to explain in the next video, but going through the abstract and skim through the figures first. And then also, it's useful to go to Google Scholar webpage and then check the number of the citations of papers that are available in that kind of website. Okay. So this one, to find out this number of the citation, you can go to Google Scholar. Okay, Google Scholar, and then you can see how many times that particular paper is cited. And then the better the paper is cited, usually that one has some kind of critical information why this paper is particularly cited, and then influence many other studies. Okay, and then once you understand the context of the paper better, then it's really easy for you to present why part of the study. And if you want to get further, this is a really additional thing, and you don't need to do it. But for your, next year honors kind of, study, it may be useful to use some, tools like this, connected papers, and then, try to find many other papers, and then, you can situate the paper that you want to present better. Once you can do that, presentation of why, then the next thing is to clarify what question and also how question. And these are, basically, falls off from reading the paper in the method parts and the results section. So it's not going to be that difficult. The important thing is for you to use the figures to explain the finding. Some student in the past has tried to use just letters and numbers on the presentation, but it's highly ineffective to use, for example, tables and also letters, sentences to present the paper. And this video, I need to do it because there's not so much figures to explain, but I try to myself use figures to explain the concepts to you guys in the lecture. And also important thing is that the figures needs to be as large as possible so that people can understand what's actually presented in the figure. If you have difficulty in how to present or how to screen capture the a figure and then put it onto your slide, then ask a tutor as well. Right, and then to understand how and what of the paper, that can be sometimes difficult. And also, some of the paper may contain huge number of experiments or very difficult kind of methods. And as I said, delivering why is much more important than the how and the what. So I don't say that you can cut completely what, how, and what, of course, but you can selectively sample a particular part of the method or results. Let's say if the paper contains many different kind of experiments, you can decide, although this paper has experiment 1 to 4, I will focus on the most important and interesting experiment, which is experiment 3. That's also fine. And also another one is that although this experiment combines method A, B, C, because I'm most interested or most important result comes from method B, I will focus on this for this talk. Because you have only 7 minutes, you don't need to explain everything, okay? And we will not penalize for selecting one of them. Okay, and then if you're stuck, then ask questions by email or forum, but primarily forum, okay? And this is also a bit of the advanced kind of advice, but if you reading relatively new papers, which are published after 2010 or so, many papers tend to contain supplementary materials. And these are sometimes critical to understand, why question or details of methods and the results. So just, I would suggest that, you should at least download and check what's going to be written in this, supplementary material. But usually it's supplementary for a good reason, which is that it's not super important to deliver the message. So do that with your responsibility. All right. And then in terms of the presentation style, which basically occupies 2.5 points of your marks, I suggest that you use the font size of 24 points. One of the reasons is that some of the students, you are going to watch this presentation over their iPhone or iPad or whatever, with a small screen. So don't expect that everybody will see everything really clearly if you make it very small. That includes also the figures as well. I tried to use all the slides over 24 points throughout the lecture, and this should be visible through the even the smartphone. Okay, so this is roughly the guideline. My slides are the guideline for your presentation. And then also, at the time of your presentation of figures, explain what each of the axis means. Like x-axis is that, and the y-axis is that, and the color-coded thing. Which color represents what and what. Okay, and then that's important. And another advice is that even if the figure in the paper is presented as a panel A, B, C, D, E, F, G, don't do that on the slide. You can just present panel A of the figure 1 to explain sorry, explain one concept at a time, and that's much more useful. And also animation feature, as I use in this lecture, is going to be useful. And if you don't know how to do that, just ask us. All right, and then I'm going to do this kind of explanation of the assessment 3 to 5 at the week 2 lecture. But you don't need to worry about it at this point. Stay tuned. And that's the end of the video 2.